Now let's get back to Australian politics, and if you think national politics is underwhelming, spare a thought for our Tasmanian compatriots. Taswegians, we feel your pain, and we hope a decent footy team in the national comp might eventually ease your pain. But Tasmania has just been through its second state election in less than a year and a half, its fourth in 7 years. The only reason the Liberal government was forced to the polls was because Labor pushed a no-confidence motion in this minority government. Yet at this stage, even though it appears the Liberals' seat tally hasn't fallen and Labor's seat tally hasn't improved, Labor is talking about trying to form government with some combination of others in the hodgepodge of the Tassie Parliament.
It is our team, the Liberal Party, who will achieve the most seats in this election with a significantly increased vote, and I thank you.
It seems likely that the three major parties in the state will end up with more or less the same number of seats as they did in the last parliament. Another election is not an option, which means we need to figure this out.
We look at the statewide vote, most of it's in here, and it's a 3% against, a swing against the Labor Party. Their primary, their lowest on record at 26%. So that will be part of the argument as to who should actually form government as to the will of the Tasmanian people. Once we get all the seats decided, that will be about 2 weeks away.
What a joke. Of course the Liberal government should stand or be reformed. Perhaps they'll all have to go back to the polls again to sort it out. I shouldn't joke because it could actually happen. Part of the problem, of course, is Tasmania's harebrained electoral system. Freudian slip there. It's Hare-Clark electoral system, which has proportional representation in multi-member electorates. This massively boosts the minor parties and the independents in their parliament. But the trouble with Tassie is that its over-representation in federal politics means that its harebrained politics actually infects Canberra. It also highlights how we have too many politicians in this country, because in Tassie, the proportion is the worst. It's off the charts. Let me explain. For starters, of course, Tasmania has 12 senators in Canberra. That's fundamental to the federation, that an equal number of senators head to the Senate for each state. But that means that Tasmania has one senator for about every 40,000 voters. By comparison, New South Wales, as the largest state, has one senator for about every 475,000 voters. 475,000 voters. That's more voters than in the whole state of Tasmania. But it gets worse, because electorates in all the other states are adjusted to be roughly the same size. So the number in each state goes up and down according to population movements. But Tasmania has a constitutional guarantee to keep a minimum of 5 lower house seats. So that means, as well as a senator for every 40,000 voters, Tassie has a lower house MP in Canberra for about every 81,000 voters. Now, for comparison, we should go to the next biggest state, the smallest mainland state of South Australia. It has 3 times as many voters as Tasmania, but only twice as many seats. So with the 12 senators, my old home state has one senator for every 107,000 voters, and each federal lower house MP represents about 128,000 voters, 50% more than those from Tasmania. So much for one vote, one value, hey? Tasmanians' votes have 50% more power, even in the lower house in Canberra, compared to their mainland counterparts. But just to show you how Tasmania shows the way for our over-governed country, I thought I'd wrap in a total for each state's representation at state and federal levels. That is, total all their state and federal politicians and line it up with their voting population. And have a look at this. When you tally up all federal and state politicians in the largest state, New South Wales, it turns out to be 1 polly per 29,000 voters. Now, that's a lot of pollies, to be sure. But in the smallest mainland state of South Australia, that works out at about 1 polly for every 14,000 voters. Twice as many pollies per capita in South Australia. But wait for it. In Tasmania, there is a state or federal politician for about every 6,000 voters. 6,000, that's like a poly for every small country town. And they wonder why they're in strife. Yet as the UK discusses giving the vote to 16-year-olds, don't worry, they'll push for it here too, and we force everyone in this country to vote, compulsory voting. In fact, we demand that people vote with preferences. We clearly don't have one vote, one value here, and the minor parties are becoming increasingly powerful. One day the whole country might turn out to be as ungovernable as Tasmania. We need a serious debate about our voting and electoral systems. Tasmania provides a warning to the whole country.